So the other day when the NFL entered free agency, you probably saw this stat. Since 2015, the Dallas Cowboys have signed only one free agent for more than $6 million annually. This stat and the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have signed pretty much nobody of note has gotten everyone asking, what is Jerry Jones even doing? Well, I, unfortunately, am a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. I have not missed a single game for probably more than 20 years for some reason, and none of this shocks me in the slightest. It's very intentional. There are reasons why the front office refuses to sign anyone, and I'm going to break down what Jerry Jones has done so far this offseason, why the front office does it this way, why it doesn't work, and how they just sabotage themselves with one of the most confusing moves I think I've ever seen. First, let's quickly review what the Cowboys have done so far that's actually considered as good-ish. The Cowboys' best signing so far is probably linebacker Jack Sanborn. They signed the 3-year pro from the Bears on a 1-year deal, and he was very good about getting after the quarterback last season, very good against the rush, and it might be one of those prove-it deals that actually works out. Then they signed edge rusher Peyton Turner on a 1-year, $3 million deal. He was a former first-round pick in 2021, and he actually had a pretty solid season last season. And now the bad. The other day, 9-time Pro Bowl right guard Zach Martin retired after 11 years with the team, and that's how this whole free agency period started. And to replace him, they signed Robert Jones to a 1-year, $4.75 million deal. He has been an average to below average lineman at best in the 4 years that he's been in the NFL. And then they signed defensive tackle Solomon Thomas on a 2-year, $8 million deal. He is a 29-year-old former number 3 overall pick and a notable draft bust. He's always been just an average edge rusher at best. You remember last offseason when the Cowboys had every opportunity in the world to sign running back Derrick Henry and didn't do it? Well, don't get your tushies in a tussle, folks, because they signed a running back, Javonte Williams, on a 1-year, $3 million deal. He is a 24-year-old former second-rounder who a lot of people thought would become elite after a really great rookie campaign in 2021, but he had a horrible injury 4 games into the 2022 season, and he tore his ACL and his ACL, and he has not even been the same player since. He saw his 4.3 yards per carry average dip to 3.6 in 2023 and 3.7 in 2024. Naturally, these kind of moves have everyone questioning what the hell is even Jerry Jones doing half the time, myself included. Well, there are 4 main reasons why Jerry and the entire front office refuses to sign anyone of note in free agency. And number 1 is Jerry has a draft and develop philosophy. This is not new. The Packers, the Steelers, they believe in it. The Bill Belichick's Patriots teams, they believed in it. And what this means is, rather than spend big money in free agency, they invest more into scouting and player development. And they just invest all of their money into the star players that end up being stars for them. Which leads to the second reason. All of their salary cap money is tied up into their star players' contracts. Jerry has an unusual loyalty to his players, so much so that he will hang on to some of them a lot longer than he needs to. A prime example would be Zeke Elliott. Because of his loyalty, he also gives massive contracts to all of his star players, some of which don't necessarily deserve the amount that they're getting. Like Dak Prescott, he gets $60 million a year, which is more than any player in the history of the league. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, he signed a 4-year, $136 million deal this past season. I would say that's deserved. Cornerback Trayvon Diggs is on a 5-year, $97 million deal. You know. And linebacker Micah Parsons is about to get a massive deal that I'm sure is going to completely reset the market. And number 3, the front office believes in bargain shopping. They love these little 1-year prove-it deals because it's less risk. You don't have to make a huge dent in the salary cap, and later on down the line, you might get a really solid player out of it, or you might even get a Pro Bowl player. You know, it's nothing too risky. And then number 4, the influence of Jerry's son, Stephen Jones, is a very big deal. Stephen is the co-owner and he's the director of player personnel. He's actually more conservative than Jerry when it comes to signing free agents. Jerry gets a lot of pushback from Stephen on this, and Jerry is of course overtly loyal to everyone in his circle, so he'll go along with Stephen's wishes a lot of the times, which I actually don't think that's the worst quality about Jerry. I think it's kind of admirable in some ways. Great for business, not all the time, but it could be worse. Now, all of this is great in theory. You know, other teams have deployed these strategies and they've gone on to win Super Bowls. But just a few weeks ago, the Cowboys made a move that not only contradicts their own strategy, but also screwed themselves for the future. The other day, the Cowboys freed up $56 million in cap space by restructuring their star players' contracts. Basically, they converted their base salary into a signing bonus, which is then spread out over the course of the years remaining on their contract. Essentially, they're just kicking the can down the road and paying some of this money later while also taking a salary cap hit for those years. But what this does is it frees up the salary cap for the upcoming season. Teams typically do this when they're about to make a big move in free agency. Me thinking, oh my God, they're actually going to finally sign somebody in free agency. However, so far, they have signed nobody of note, and all they have done is screw themselves on the future salary cap space that they have in later seasons. Oh, and they still have to pay up everything that they have restructured. So basically, it did all this for nothing. The only thing it did do was screw them in the future. And then a little side note, there is, of course, the new head coaching hire of Brian Schottenheimer, who was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys for the past few years. He has been fired or demoted 3 times in the past 5 years. And that led to this equally confusing quote from Jerry.
There's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes. Very low percentage.
But this is not really related to free agency. I just still have to mention it because I'm salty. And then there are huge problems with this draft and develop philosophy that the Jones family is just refusing to deviate from in any way, shape, or form. For one, they regularly let their star players walk in free agency to different teams because they don't have the money to pay them, or they're just too conservative. And then they don't turn around and replace them with any big free agent signings. Examples of this would be Amari Cooper, Byron Jones, Dalton Schultz, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Jordan Lewis as of late. And then they have this idea that the NFL draft is somehow less risky than signing a proven superstar free agent. But the NFL draft is honestly more unpredictable. It's incredibly common for a guy in the first round or second round to be drafted and then traded or cut within 3 or 4 years. If they don't work out, the Cowboys just won't have anyone in free agency to fill in the gaps. And then even if they do, it takes 3, 4, sometimes 5 years for a draft pick to turn into a Pro Bowl, really locked down kind of player. So it ends up taking them longer to get to where they want to go, and they waste the prime years of their superstars, and they just have these holes on the team that they can't fill because they're so married to this one philosophy. The fact is that free agency is a very, very effective way of winning a Super Bowl. The 2021 LA Rams and the 2020 Tampa Bay Bucks, they both won Super Bowls the same year that they committed to big free agents. And even the Philadelphia Eagles, they have found a way to do both. Just this past free agency frenzy, they signed running back Saquon Barkley, defensive end Bryce Huff, cornerback CJ Gardner-Johnson, and then they had really good draft picks on top of it in the past couple of years. They had defensive tackle Jalen Carter, 9th overall in 2023. He's a Pro Bowler. Cornerback Quinyon Mitchell, he's a first rounder in 2024. He's already an awesome corner. And then there's cornerback Cooper DeJean, 2nd rounder. He became a really good starter halfway through the past year, and he had a back-breaking interception for a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Looking, firing, intercepted! Picked up by Cooper DeJean! Gets a block! DeJean! And touchdown!
But Jerry refuses to try and adapt and win. He refuses to change anything he's doing. He has such tunnel vision, and it is the prime reason why the Cowboys have only won 5 playoff games in the past 30 years. But they're still the most valuable sports franchise in the entire world. The fans will still come out and sell out the stadium. They travel all the way across the country better than any other franchise in the NFL. And to keep that up, Jerry and the front office, they build up all of this hype. They prop up their star players with really aggressive marketing and just all of these radio talk show appearances. They can just keep this cycle of money and hype going without really winning. And Jerry will never admit it, but this is what is more important to him. This is where he would prefer to focus most of his time, because the alternative is trying out new strategies, taking risks, potentially losing millions of dollars, and then potentially going against his own family members' wishes and just causing friction there. And that's not going to happen. And another thing that's not going to happen is Patrick Mahomes passing Tom Brady as the GOAT. And there is one man who is responsible for this. Click the box in the top left-hand corner, and I will see you over there. All right, toodles.